Comic Boom.
Hey guys, Comic Boom here to review Flash Forward number 6. This is the final issue. This is the issue that we were hoping that Wally West would get all his children back. Well, two of them, really. I mean, there's only two. Jay and Iris. This whole series was about, at least we were hoping, was this going to give some kind of redemption to Wally West? Was this going to somehow redeem the terrible actions that he did in Heroes in Crisis, thanks to he who will not be named, Tom King? And, well, what happened? What happens in this issue? Well, wow, we found out a lot about this issue even before reading it because of all the solicitations, right? This apparently leads into Flash 750. We know that at the end of this issue, wow, Flash really does end up sitting on the Mobius chair. You know, they kind of screwed up on the covers to these issues. In issue 5, it showed Wally West sitting on the Mobius chair. He never actually sat on the Mobius chair in issue 5. He was just close to it, and he was able to manifest certain powers. And here in this issue, Tempest Fuginaut says to him, look, you've got to, your own fears gave rise to this world. The only reason you're on a world here, the world that refuses to die in the dark multiverse, the world that refuses to decay, is a world that you yourself created, Wally, from your fears of losing your wife and losing your children. And it won't die. Every time the dark universe tries to dissolve, or this world tries to decay and destroy itself, it seems to revitalize and somehow find a way to adapt and stay alive, and it's perpetuating the dark matter that's eating up the multiverse. So the only way to save the multiverse, apparently, according to Tempest Fuginaut, telling Wally West, look, you've got to sit on the Mobius chair. You got to sit on the Mobius chair. And I got to tell you, I love this issue because Wally West knows what he's got to do. He acknowledges that it was his own fears that gave rise to the world that's now facilitating the destruction of the multiverse. He knows what he has to do, but he knows he's got Jay and Iris, he's got his kids, and he asks Tempest Fuginaut for a favor, and it's granted, and that is he spends one last day with his children, and it's beautiful. He spends one last day with his kids, and he's just a dad. He gets to be a dad again. It's exactly the type of story that that I enjoyed reading it. And at the end of it, of course, he's got to sit upon the Mobius chair, and Tempest Fuginaut warns him, says, look, the minute you sit on that chair, you're going to lose love. You're going to lose emotion. You're going to become emotionless. You're going to lose all connection to your humanity, and you're going to become all-knowing. And you're going to know the past, the present, and the future, but you're going to lose your connection. And of course, the implication being is that he's going to lose some part of him that drew him close. He's going to lose that part of him that loves his children and loves Linda. But that's the price that he has to pay in order to save the multiverse. Because we do know that flowing from this, he does sit in the Mobius chair and he instantly becomes all-knowing. And then right away at the end, when he sits upon the Mobius chair, the narration, his thoughts look like the thoughts of Dr. Manhattan were in Doomsday Clock. In other words, they're in blue narration boxes surrounded by the dark black ink, blue box with dark ink around it. And he even sounds a little bit like Dr. Manhattan. And he says that he does sound a little bit, devoid of emotion. And he says, since the creation of the Mobius chair, it has been content to observe. Today is a new day, a new vocation, a new me. So this is a new Wally West, and he's acknowledging that. Now, I'm hoping, like so many others, that Wally West is going to be able to overcome the power of the Mobius chair and still channel some emotion, channel the love and the hope, and that's going to help him reform a revitalized DC universe. Now, we do know from solicits that this leads in, the story continues in Flash 750. This story then continues into the new comic book day for Generation 1, Gods Among Us. And then flowing from that will be five Generation 1 one-shots. Generation 1, Generation 2 through Generation 5. And then finally in October, the 5G is going to start off. Now, with the firing of Dan Didio, 5G was Dan Didio's baby, apparently his vision. Maybe plans are going to change, but as it stands now, from a storytelling point of view, it's very easy for DC, whatever DC editorially decides to do, even if they're going to change 5G, what's great about the ending of this story with Flash is that with Wally West, as the new person sitting upon the Mobius chair, he instantly becomes knowledgeable of past, present, and future, and he knows and he sees what's wrong with the multiverse, and he goes about to try to correct it. So who's to say that when he corrects what he thinks is wrong with the multiverse, it doesn't necessarily need to result in 5G. So even with the firing of Dan Didio, and even if there's some significant editorial shifts in storyline, it's still something that is in theory workable. They should be able to twist the outcome of Flash Forward, and even into New Comic Book Day, the Generation 1, they can still do some manipulations of the storyline and still give us a rebirth, because let's face it, that's all of us really want, at least us longtime fans. We want to return to rebirth. Now, if 5G is going to give us a sense of rebirth, or at least if that was the idea, fine, but maybe now we're going to be getting more of a Jeff Johns type of sensibility as opposed to a Dan Didio one, or a darker one that we would normally, that we're accustomed to seeing with Year the Villain and with the upcoming Death Metal, which, it's so dark. All of us want a little bit of light here. And I love Flash Forward number 6 because it's Wally West making the sacrifice. The other deal he makes with Tempest Fugonaut here is, look, you got to save my kids, Jay and Iris. And Tempest Fugonaut keeps his promise, returns Jay and Iris to their mother, to Linda, goes back to Earth Designate Zero, takes Jay and Iris with him. And in that moment that Jay and Iris appear in the Earth Designate Zero on the planet, Linda right away remembers that she remembers a relationship with Wally. Finally, she remembers that she's got kids. Finally, and finally we finally get that acknowledgement from Linda. Unfortunately, it comes at the time when Wally West is, of course, on the Mobius chair, and he's abandoned his life forcibly. Well, he's made that sacrifice in order to save the multiverse. This is a good story. This is a significant story. Now, for those who, for those that are trying to follow what's going on in the DC universe right now, Flash Forward number 6 is something that you should pick up. You actually don't need to pick up issues 1 through 5 to really get what's going on here. This is pretty much very well encapsulated. To be quite honest with you, they could have had a Flash Forward special number 1. They didn't need full 6 issues to do it. A lot of the story was sort of superfluous and it was unnecessary, but it was kind of cool to see Wally West travel through the various different Earths in the multiverse. But in any event, not a bad story. I like the way it ended. I like that we have got some redemption for Wally West, I think. And it's going to be interesting to see where he goes moving forward. Guys, tell me what you think of Flash Forward number 6. Hit the subscribe button. Follow me on Twitter at Metropolis40. And until next time, Comic Boom, out.